For this project, we, Ariana Correa, Patricia Herrera, Stephanie Sinclair, and Tingwei Zhao, will be looking at the 5-second rule to hopefully bring insight into its validity, origins, and when the rule is most applicable. So what is the 5-second rule exactly? Well, first, we need to start by defining what a myth and what a folklore is. A myth is a traditional story, oftentimes one concerning early people, explaining some natural phenomenon or involving the supernatural. More broadly, a myth is a widely held but false belief or idea. On the other hand, a folklore is the traditional beliefs, customs, and stories of communities. Some folklore have scientific basis, but others contradict science. Due to the differences in the definitions, it's safe to say the 5-second rule is a myth. Now let's define the 5-second rule. According to Google, it's a Western cultural food hygiene myth that states that there is a defined window where it is permissible to pick up food after it has been dropped and thus contaminated. There are 2 suggested origins for the food folklore. First, it can be traced back to Genghis Khan, a 13th century Mongol ruler who threw many lavish banquets. It is rumored that at these banquets, if food fell on the floor, it could stay there as long as Khan allowed. This was rooted in the idea that any food prepared for the ruler was superior and would stay good to eat no matter what. Mind you, that in the 13th century, little was known about foodborne illnesses and microorganisms. The rule has also been traced back to Julia Child, an American chef and television personality. In 1963, on her televised cooking show, Julia was attempting to flip a potato pancake in a pan. However, the flip failed and the pancake fell on the stovetop, to which she said, "You can always pick it up if you are alone in the kitchen. Who is going to see?" Food contamination on a popular television show further catapulted the idea of the 5-second rule into popular imagination. Here we have a girl dropping a chip. Will she eat it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thankfully, her friends stopped her from eating a contaminated chip. So, what contributes to whether or not one eats the food that has been contaminated? Does the amount of time really make a difference, whether or not you would eat the food off the floor? Obviously, food we value more and like better we will be more keen to eat despite the fact that it may have hit a dirty surface. For example, this girl drops a carrot and she decides not to eat it because she doesn't value the carrot. However, when she drops the Cheez-It, despite it falling on the floor, picks it up and consumes it. 5-second rule. Some research behind the rule by Mythbusters tested out the 5-second rule in 2005. They found that contact time was not a determining factor of food edibility, as well as found that wet food picked up more bacteria than dry food did. The test was ran with a wet piece of salami dropped onto a contaminated surface compared to a dry cracker on a contaminated surface. Here we have an example of how wet food does get more contaminated than dry food.
Lab at Clemson University tested to see the effects of food contact time with contaminated surfaces. 3 experiments were conducted to determine the survival and transfer rate of Salmonella typhimurium from wood, tile, and carpet to bologna and bread. It was found that S. typhimurium can actually survive up to 4 weeks on dry surfaces in large enough populations to be transferred to foods, and it can be transferred to food almost immediately on contact. This shows that bacteria can not only survive, but also cross-contaminate food even after long periods of time, and this reinforces the importance of sanitation to lower the risk of foodborne illnesses.
Time is not a contributing factor to whether or not your food has been contaminated. This myth has been disproved due to the research findings of several different sources. So, what should we do? This research suggests that the best thing we can do is keep your hands, floor, and other surfaces clean. Or just don't eat the job food. Here are some of our sources. Thank you.